Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So taking a look at BT-05, we can see that we got a whole bunch of new and powerful tools to upgrade a whole bunch of different decks with, and one of those decks is going to be the Commandramon deck, or D-Brigade. So the D-Brigade deck is kind of akin to Rookie Rush, where the whole idea is that you're going to be trying to play as many Commandramons as you possibly can, and try to swarm with the Commandramons, and then when the Commandramons die, then hopefully the goal is for them to be replacing themselves, so that way you're always going to have a board presence. So it's a really interesting deck to be playing with, just because it has some very unique tools, and it is looking to be a really strong deck, and with BT-05, we got a new Commandramon to help propel the deck forward and make it more consistent than it was before. So, going over the deck, starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running one copy of Tsumemon. So Tsumemon is still a really good Digitama for this deck, just because it has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, while you have another Digimon with the same name as this Digimon in play, then this Digimon gains plus 2000 DP. So the majority of our rookies are going to be where we're going to be attacking with, and they're all going to share the name of Commandramon. So Tsumemon is looking to be a pretty powerful Digimon to utilize, because it'll give our rookies basically a 2000 DP boost, which is pretty decent considering we have some pretty strong rookies that we're playing. And then the main Digitama of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Missimon. So Missimon is the main Digitama just because it is interacting with all of our D-Brigades, not just our Commandramons. So Missimon giving any of our D-Brigade Digimon plus 1000 DP during our turn is still looking to be just the better inheritable ability, but these are the only two Digitama you could realistically think about reasonably using, so they're the only two Digitama I really want to mention. But as far as the rookies of the deck go, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Commandramon. So this is the BT-03 version of Commandramon, and this Commandramon is really good because it has some very efficient stats of being a Commandramon that hard plays for 2, evos for 0, and has 3000 DP, just making him a pretty decent card to be running. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Commandramon. So this is the BT-04 version of Commandramon, and this Commandramon is pretty good because it has a nice on-delete ability where you get to reveal the top 3 cards of your deck, and you get to play 1 card with Commandramon in its name among them for free, and then the rest go to the bottom. So basically, when this Digimon dies, hopefully he's going to flip over a Commandramon, so that way that Commandramon comes onto the field, thus replacing himself, keeping a body on board to try to keep up the aggression. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Commandramon. So this is the BT-05 version of Commandramon, and this Commandramon is a pretty okay Commandramon considering it has the blocker ability native to him, so we get a chump blocker if we need it, but what's also really good about this card is the fact that there is no penalty for him attacking other than he won't be able to block, but we don't necessarily care because we just care about the fact that he is another Commandramon. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Commandramon. So this is the starter deck version of Commandramon found in the first Black starter deck, and this Commandramon is just an absolute powerhouse of a rookie to be playing around with. So not only does he share the Commandramon name, but he also has a very powerful stat line, being a hard play for 4. We don't really care about that because most of the time we're trying to either evo him for 0 or play him for free off of our card effects, but he has 5000 DP, which is really large for rookies to be playing around with, making him just a very powerful card. So his interaction with Tsumemon means that he could be a rookie with 7000 DP, or even at worst with Missimon, he is a rookie with 6000 DP. So this version of Commandramon is just the absolute powerhouse backbone rookie for the deck. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be the only non-Commandramon card, and that's going to be 4 copies of Toy Agumon. So this version of Toy Agumon comes from the Black starter deck, and this Toy Agumon is looking to be pretty decent still, just because he has a nice inheritable ability where at the end of the opponent's turn, if the opponent didn't attack with the Digimon this turn, then we get to draw 1 card. So because we are a Rookie Rush style of deck, we do lack some initial card draw because we are going to be hard playing our Digimon more often than evoing, so having some way to try to help us draw cards is really good, especially since Black interacts with blockers. We are running a couple of blockers in the deck to de-incentivize the opponent from attacking to try to get this card draw more consistently. Next, on to the champions, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Gururumon. So Gururumon is a really decent Digimon for this deck to be playing around with just because he is a security Digimon. So at the end of the security battle, we get to play this card for free. So this is just really powerful because we are again, aggro rush style deck where we're trying to aggress into the opponent's security, and as a result the opponent is probably going to try to respond in kind with aggressing into our security. So having a security Digimon pop out to give us an extra attack during our turn is looking to be a very, very powerful strategy to try to help push the overall aggression of the deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Tankmon. So Tankmon is in the deck just because he is a very powerful champion to be playing with, just because he has a very low evo cost, so he's very tempo efficient to digivolve into and off of, and on top of that he also has some rather large DP with holding 6000 DP, meaning that he could be over or at least tie with a good amount of the champion blockers that are currently in the game, making Tankdramon just a very powerful card for this style of deck. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Sealsdramon. So Sealsdramon is a D-Brigade blocker, and that's kind of the only reason why we're running him. He is just fulfilling that blocker role that we've seen so many times before. His stats are pretty decent, where he has a hard play cost of 5, evos for 2, which is average, and 6000 DP, which is on the larger side of DP compared to a lot of the other cards that we could be playing, and the fact that he is a D-Brigade card just adds to his overall playability in the deck. But he does have a when attacking clause of losing to memory, so we're not really looking to attack with him, we're just looking for him to just stem off some of the opponent's aggression, and he combos really nicely with Toy Agumon to try to create a very early wall to try to allow us to get some good early game card draw in. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Shademon. So Shademon is, again, another security Digimon, except this time it is acting a little bit more on the defensive side, considering it is a security Digimon that has the blocker ability, and it's also a Digimon that can't attack. So the whole idea of the card is for it to just pop out of our security, stops some of the opponent's aggression, so that way we could aggress even harder than they could aggress onto us, or at worst we could use this to Digivolve on top of Toy Agumon just to have another blocker out to try to get some card draw in, or at worst, again, we could utilize this card to Digivolve into our only ultimate of the deck. So it's just another card that has a ton of usability and flexibility with this style of deck. Next, on to the ultimates. The only ultimate of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Tankdramon. So Tankdramon is just a really powerful card to be interacting with D-Brigades. Not only is he a D-Brigade himself, but he has this nice powerful ability where during your turn, when one of your Digimon with D-Brigade is deleted, then we get to reveal the top 2 cards of our deck, and we get to play 1 Commandramon card from among them for free, and then the rest go to the bottom. So this is just adding to why we want to play so many different Commandramons, just so we have a higher chance of our Commandramons actually replacing themselves, or our other D-Brigades replacing themselves with a Commandramon. So Tankdramon is looking to be a absolutely fantastic card for this deck to be running, and on top of that, it is an ultimate to utilize some of our champions with, in case we feel like we need to go up into him. We don't necessarily need to go up into him, he's just a really powerful card to just sit on the field, and to try to let our lower levels just aggress as safely as they possibly can, with the hope that they're going to be replacing themselves. But if they don't replace themselves, then we don't really feel that bad, considering we are just still trying to aggro out the opponent, and any bit of aggression helps. Next, on to the Megas, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Darkdramon. So Darkdramon is, for all intents and purposes, one of the big win conditions of the deck, just because he has this very powerful rush ability, where he could attack the same turn he is played, so you do have to hard play him in order to gain the rush ability. You can't just Digivolve him and then assume that he could attack, unless that Digimon could have attacked before. But regardless, him having Rush just allows us to try to close out the game faster because he could attack the turn he comes in, and he has a nice on-play ability that combos with Rush, where we could return up to 5 Digimon with D-Brigade in their type from our trash to the top of our deck in any order, and then for each card returned, we gain 2 memory. So returning all 5 cards means that we're going to be gaining 10 memory, which means we could hard play a level 6 for 3 that could attack the same turn it comes in, and that's just looking to be pretty powerful, on top of which putting the cards back to the top of our deck means that we could set up our synergies to try to have our D-Brigades replace themselves. So if we have Tankdramon just sitting on the field and Darkdramon gets deleted, then there's a high chance that we're going to be getting a Commandramon back out of that transaction, or even with just another Commandramon, it's still just looking to be a very powerful card just because it's helping to set up those cards, so that way we could consistently try to keep a field of Digimon, which is what we're trying to do because we're trying to be an aggro-aggressive style of deck, just trying to deal as much damage as quickly as we possibly can. And then the last mega of the deck, which is going to be the level 7 of the deck, is going to be 2 copies of Omnimon Zwart. So Omnimon Zwart is an absolutely insane card for this deck to be playing, just because he has this very powerful ability of allowing us to trash the top 3 cards of our deck, and then we get to play up to 2 black or purple Digimon with a play cost of 8 or less from our trash for free. So this is, again, really powerful because we could revive our Tankdramons, we could revive our blockers, we could revive just some really powerful level 4s or level 3s. So there's just a ton of different cards that we could utilize Omnimon Zwart to res, making him just a very powerful card, just again, to try to keep as wide of a board as we possibly can. And with, again, the idea of our Commandramons dying and replacing themselves, it just further enhances that strategy while filling up our trash with cards, so that way we could hard play another Darkdramon when we get to that point. So Zwart is just looking to be very powerful for that first part of the ability alone, and then on top of which he even has a when attacking ability where we get to return a level 6 Digimon from his Digivolution source back to our hand to delete one of the opponent's unsuspended Digimon with a play cost of 12 or less. So this is, again, just another really powerful ability just because it's acting as some solid removal, and it's adding a Darkdramon back to our hand, which he probably helped set up just because the milling, and that just allows us to try to play Darkdramon again, making it very powerful and very aggressive of a card to be utilizing for this type of deck. Next, on to the options. I'm only going to be running 3 copies of Ultimate Flare. So Ultimate Flare is just a very powerful option for this deck to be running, just because it's acting as some solid removal that's coming out of our security, or if we need to hard play it in a pinch, then we have that availability to us as well. Even though its play cost is a little bit on the high side, the ability to de-digivolve 3 on one of the opponent's Digimon is already really good because it could bypass a lot of natural defenses that the Digimon might have, and on top of that, it also has the additional ability to delete all of the opponent's Digimon in play with a play cost of 3 or less. So if they're trying to rookie rush us back, then Ultimate Flare will hard punish them for taking that strategy by deleting all of their rookies, allowing us to keep ours and safely aggress into the opponent the following turn. And then it has the ever so powerful security ability of activating its main, so when it comes out of the security, it could actually be very brutal and very devastating for the opponent. And then the last card of the deck is going to be the only Tamer of the deck, and that's going to be 3 copies of Izzy. So Izzy is still just a very powerful card for this deck to be running, just because he is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing Tamer. So if our memory is ever less than 3, he'll just always hard set it to 3, and that's just really important because it allows us to play our Darkdramon and swing in the same turn, or Digivolve up into Tankdramon and be able to swing with our other Digimon in the same turn. So being at 3 memory is actually really important for this deck. And then on top of that, it also has a nice on-play ability that synergizes very nicely with the deck, where we get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, and then if all of those cards are black, then we get to gain 1 memory and place them back on the top of our deck in any order. So placing the cards back on the top, it just gives us a lot of information to make some really intelligent levels of play. So we could try to line up a Commandramon, so that way we could utilize our Commandramons to replace themselves and have the cards from the top of our deck reveal another Commandramon to be able to be played for free. Or it gives us that information to not do that type of strategy and to hold back a little bit because we know we're going to be whiffing on the ability if we attempt that type of gameplay. And on top of that, the on-play ability is gaining a memory, making him just a very efficient Tamer to be playing, because then it kind of is like reducing his play cost by 1, and if he's checked in the security, it also could take away one of the opponent's memory, so he's just looking to be a very fantastic Tamer for the deck overall. And then there's just a ton of different things that you could do with the deck, all depending on the direction you want to take it and the types of support you want to give it with. So I think based on how the deck and all of the black tools are laid out, color splashing is actually pretty decent with this deck because we have a couple of different colors that have some really good synergy with the deck depending on what you use and how you use it. So I think purple is one of the higher synergy colors just because purple is interacting with a lot of on-delete stuff and deleting our own stuff. So we have Tankmon to act as some really good card draw just because we want him to be deleted to draw a card. But in case we don't want to use Tankmon, we also have Labramon, which just has a really nice on-play ability to allow us to draw one card and then discard one card, thus filling our trash and getting through our deck faster. And because we're not going to be playing any purple eggs, Labramon's on-play ability is really all we're looking to gain out of the card, making her really, really strong. And on top of that, we also have Wizardmon as a potential level 4 to go up into. We're almost never going to be utilizing the retaliation part of the ability because we're not trying to play any yellow Digimon, although you could play a magnadramon if you really wanted to, but it also has a nice on-delete ability of allowing us to draw one card, so we could utilize that after hard playing Labramon to digivolve up into Wizardmon to try to get some additional card draw in. And then we also have Commandramon we could think about playing just because Commandramon is acting as some very fantastic removal where he has, again, another nice on-play ability where we get to delete one of our Digimon to delete one of the opponent's level 5 or lower Digimon, so we could use it on either Tankmon, Labramon, or Wizardmon if we are playing a small purple package, or we could use it on a Commandramon to try to get the Commandramon's on-delete ability off, or to try to trigger Tankdramon to try to get its ability off to try to have the Commandramon or D-Brigade card replace itself. So Commandramon is just acting as another really solid card to enforce that type of strategy. And we also have Deathclaw, which is doing, again, something very similar, where we could delete one of our Digimon to delete one of the opponent's level 4 or lower Digimon. So this way, most of the time, we're going to be utilizing this to delete a Commandramon to, again, try to replay our Commandramons. We also have Tankmon and all that, as I mentioned before, that it could interact with, to just try to delete one of the opponent's level 4, which is most likely going to be a blocker, so that way we could aggress for a very low cost, and we could even reduce that cost and reduce the cost of some of our other cards, just because we have Matt Ishida from the purple starter deck that we could be interacting with, not only as a purple tamer to just consistently sit on the field so we have access to our purple options, but we also could utilize his ability where during your turn, when one of your Digimon is deleted, we can suspend him to gain 1 memory. So that's just, again, another really powerful card to be interacting with this style of deck and this type of gameplay. But if you don't feel like purple is the best bet, then you could utilize blue just because blue has a whole bunch of very powerful cards itself. So we have the on-play Gabumon that just allows us to draw a card. So it's just, again, acting as some good card draw, which we definitely need in this style of deck. And because we have access to blue, we also could think about playing Lobomon just because Lobomon is another way that we could aggress onto the opponent. And we even have a very cheap blue tamer that we could be interacting with. And this tamer could also passively gain us some memory, which just is another really powerful thing to be playing around with because the more memory efficient we are, the better the plays that we can make are. And then we also could play Hammerspark if you really felt like you wanted to, just because we would have the blue tamer and the blue Digimon to try to double down on trying to increase our memory to increase our overall efficiency. But if you don't feel like playing blue or purple, you also have red that you have access to, where you could utilize Agumon to basically act as Lobomon for just some extra aggression and an extra aggressive push, utilizing the hybrid cards. And on top of that, we also have Gaia Force, which is acting as some solid removal if we really felt like we wanted to run some better removal type options. And we even have the starter deck Taikamiya to act as a very cheap and efficient red tamer for Agumon and its ability to just passively increase our Digimon's DP by 1,000 during our turn, just make our Digimon that much more aggressive to be playing around with, and can help push the overall aggressiveness of the deck. And then if you wanted to play another really decent black card, we have access to Dark Roar. So Dark Roar is the D-Brigade dedicated removal option, so it does cost 3. That's kind of why being at 3 memory is super important, so we could utilize this card to try to delete one of the opponent's Digimon, mainly a blocker, so we could aggress into their security, but its main ability also could potentially hit more targets just because its ability allows us to delete one of the opponent's Digimon with a play cost of 3 or less, and then for each D-Brigade Digimon we have in play, we get to increase the maximum play cost that it's targeting by 1, With 2 D-Brigades out, it'll hit a Digimon that costs 5 or less. With 3, it'll hit one that's 6 or less. So the more D-Brigades we have on the field, the stronger this card gets. But even at worst, just deleting a Digimon that costs 3 or less could be really good, just because they could be playing a memory blocking card to try to stop our Darkdramon from gaining the memory back for hard playing it. So this is just a really decent card at trying to, at worst, remove that type of card from the field. And then it has the nice security ability of activating its main effect, so it could act as some pretty good removal coming out of the security as well. And then we do have access to a couple of other level 7s, so the 2 best other level 7s I could think of are going to be Omnimon Alter S, just because, again, the When Digivolving ability to de-Digivolve 1 could bypass a lot of the opponent's defenses depending on what they're playing, and it'll delete all of the opponent's Digimon with 5,000 DP or less, acting as some really good board removal if they are trying to go toe-to-toe with us and build a wide board also. And then on top of that, he even has another really strong ability to try to help us close out the game by making him unblockable by returning a level 6 from his inheritable source to our hand, thus allowing us to reuse our Darkdramon and be able to make this Digimon unblockable to close out the game with. And then the other really powerful level 7 that we could be playing around with is going to be Omnimon Zwart Defeat. So Omnimon Zwart Defeat is just a very powerful card in his own right. He has some really low evo cost for being a level 7, so he's just very efficient to digivolve into in case we want to utilize his When Digivolving ability to delete one of the opponent's Tamers, which, depending on the deck, the matchup, and the state of the game, could set the opponent back quite a lot. And then on top of that, he also has a really nice on-delete ability to delete one of the opponent's Digimon, so if they're trying to respond to him, then he's going to respond back by deleting the opponent's Digimon, which again is very, very powerful because it's just acting as more removal. And what's making this card extra insane, especially for this style of deck, is the fact that he has a nice security ability where you could play him for free. Unfortunately, he doesn't do battle with the opposing Digimon, so the opposing Digimon that checked him in the security is going to live, but the fact that we get a free level 7 with already playing security type Digimon in the deck is just looking to be very, very powerful of a strategy, and we could double down and further enforce this if we wanted to by playing Tai and Matt to try to make the Omnimons that we're playing have even more damage output and have a potential more memory gain. So there's just a lot that we could do with this style of deck, again, depending on what you're looking to do, and I think it's a very strong and very powerful deck no matter which way you take it. Yes, it does have its matchups, so it is going to be stronger against some decks and weaker against others, but that's just the nature of card games. But overall, matchups aside, I think this is still just a very powerful and very fun deck to be playing around with, and this should be a, for the most part, relatively affordable deck outside of the level 7s. One big thing that we do have to keep in mind with our level 7s is we're actually not looking to attack with the level 7s after playing a Darkdramon, just because whatever level 7 is going to be played will not gain or retain the Rush ability that is specifically on Darkdramon, so we can't necessarily utilize Chaosmon to some very efficient levels of play, just because Chaosmon will not retain the Rush ability, so that is a little bit unfortunate, but we are looking to utilize the level 7s for their very powerful When Digivolving abilities to just try to increase our board state or disrupt the opponent's board state. But either way, this is still just a very fun deck to be playing around with, and I really like and enjoy what this deck is doing. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.